Hare Krishna. Welcome to Thriving Bhakti. Bhadra Singh here. Now, I believe that 90%, 99% of devotees who are maybe struggling or challenged in their spiritual life, with their habits, where they want to be, how they want to be as a devotee, I don't think most of them do not lack sincerity. But what they do lack is competency. And I think this is quite a big thing within our Krishna conscious world, is that we don't lack sincerity, but I think we lack competency. And I think what we need to do is we need to start addressing and admitting and identifying, shall we say, the areas of competency. Yes, we have this high goal. We want to develop love of Krishna. We chant, we read, but there's this kind of middle ground that's missing. And I believe a lot of devotees are set up to fail. All their fault why they're struggling. I think it's because they lack competency. And what do I mean by that? I'm not talking like they're not intelligent, they're not educated, that they don't want to work hard, that they have a work ethic, they have a determination, a desire to be determined to do these things, but they lack the competency and they forget unconsciously, unintentionally, that there's like a mode of goodness level of competency that we need, and a level of skill set and mindset that we need in that mode. Now, we come into bhakti from lower modes generally. In material society around us, we have been ill-equipped to have good relationships. We're ill-equipped even to be financially stable, to create money, where we're all kind of broke, in debt, a lot of health issues. Material education system, and I've worked in it as a secondary and primary school teacher. I coach and have mentored men for like 18 years who are going through those education systems. The material system is failing people in general, not just spiritually. They're not, financial IQ, even right now, emotional EQ, like emotional resilience, like building the generation to come up with the emotional ability to handle setbacks and to be emotionally resilient for failing forward, for dealing with crisis. And now we see this whole mental health crisis because we can see more and more that material society is not even preparing human beings to be successful in normal life. So we come into bhakti and we have to see we lack competency. I mean, a lot of talks I see now that are very popular online, even with, certain swamis and brahmacharis and even, all types of devotees, are talking basically self-development. Oh, why do I need self-development? I have Krishna. Well, sorry to tell you, but self-development and success mindset, skill set, the habits of success, you can't bypass them. Well, unless you get, like injected with pure mercy by Krishna's mercy, because Krishna can do anything. But most of us are on the step-by-step process of becoming purified. Here we are. If you're going to chant your rounds, you're going to balance your material life, deal with your kids and your family and your wife and your spouse and your services, you've got to have competency. You just do. You've got to know how to balance those things. You've got to know how to prioritize. You've got to know how to not use Krishna consciousness, like materially, to keep beating yourself up of why you're not doing enough. And there's a lot of mindsets in devotees in the name of humility that actually drains their energy, putting themselves down unnecessarily. I'm not worthy. How can I do it? When will Krishna's mercy be upon me? I'm trying to do my rounds, but one day I will. Once all the kids are grown up. There's all these reasons devotees individually are struggling not to be where they want, and they're either using Krishna consciousness to justify their position, being so lowly, so fallen, or they just feel that they're just not the type of person who can be a devotee, when actually that's not totally true. There's a huge factor here, and it's competency. We have to develop the mindset of the mode of goodness and success. We have to have that. And we didn't necessarily, unless you had good parents, unless you were a role model that, unless you were in environments growing up where this was normal, maybe you stumbled across growth mindset books on habits of successful people, these kinds of things, then you were kind of set up to fail. So I believe, honestly, if you're out there, you're a devotee and you can see that you're not where you want to be and you've been trying, it's not that you're not sincere. It's not that you don't want to be. It's just that you're trying to do it on your own and you don't know why it's working out, and you kind of beat yourself up and you think it's your fault and you're just not good enough, when all that's really happening is you need to build a different way of thinking and to accommodate that with success habits. That's it. I think this can get so many devotees out of trouble and get out of that horrible thinking and self-talk. And even, all backed up by taking, ultimate humility out of the Krishna conscious literatures to make them feel so lonely and so ill-equipped and so unworthy when all they lack is a skill set and a mindset. So this is why I really, I emphasize more and more, that whether it's Thriving Bhakti in the program that I do, where everything is all there for you, it's already set up, the ingredients for success, where you need, how to build the mindset, how to actually learn how to set goals. People set goals, but they don't know what to do from there. Oh, here's the goal, but how to actually forget the goal and design the plan and then execute the plan, and then add the third ingredient, which is accountability. I'll talk about that on another podcast, the ingredients. And, we can just think, well, this isn't Krishna consciousness. This is, you just depend on Krishna. I can tell you for sure that Prabhupada used to talk that devotees should become daksha, expert. He said you become expert by doing something for 7 years consistently. This is all success. It's about building competency, sticking to things, growing and learning. So we had a speaker, amazing speaker, His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, who is an amazing brahmachari, who just really, I highly recommend his podcasts and his information that's available online, because a lot of what he was talking about in the programs here was just like listening skills, how to communicate effectively, how to understand communication deeply. Yes, but because we're meant to be compassionate, understanding, we're meant to build relationships with devotees, offering, our 6 loving exchanges. So we have all this overall principles and general guidance on how to act as devotees, but there's details. There's a lot of detail in each of them. So, and it's not unique. It's not just the Hare Krishnas who have the monopoly and know the secrets and that are developing these principles and habits. We just develop them for perfection. We use them for perfection, in perfection. So it's not unique. There are non-devotees, persons out there who, okay, let's take the acting in bhakti for Krishna's pleasure, but there are devotees out there who communicate, non-devotees who communicate so much better than some of us. They have more discipline, more control over their minds for their pursuits. Okay, they're not necessarily sattvic or even, obviously not Shuddha Sattva pure, but those qualities are there that produce results. So honestly, if you're a devotee out there you've been saying to yourself, oh, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, it's only those special devotees that can do it, I'm sincere, but Krishna, what can I do? You're feeling helpless and hopeless, or even if you're just like, you are doing relatively well and you've been cruising in bhakti, but you just can't seem to move forward, I can guarantee that, I would bet, 90% of the issue is just competency, around the competency of thinking in the right way to produce success, to produce the results through understanding success and habits. Because you could say they are in our Shastra. One devotee's challenge, yes, this is all in our Shastra. This is, why do we need these other ideas? And I said, well, no, these are all in our bhakti text, but we don't seem to be grasping it. We seem to be jumping over competency in the name of Krishna consciousness. Of course, when it comes to cooking, we want to become competent because, if we don't cook good, then expert cooks. But everything takes practice, and even like cooking, there is a process of learning how to cook, how to be successful in the kitchen. There are certain do's and don'ts. There are certain habits and ways that we operate in the kitchen that produce success. So that's the same with dealing with your sadhana and balancing your life, and how to deal with money and how to handle setbacks. Challenges are coming. Now the new generation are coming in, and I personally coach and mentor men in our home here. We've coached many men over the last 13 or 14 years who have gone on to become sadhakas and married. But it took 3 or 4 or 5 years for them to actually build the habits for success so they could leave and keep their sadness together. And we would also taught them the mindset, how to think like a spiritual entrepreneur. I love this term. I call it entrepreneurs, which is one of my programs for connecting non-devotees to bhakti. So today I wanted to really, to put it out there that we're set up to fail. Most of us have been set up to fail, and we've come into Bhakti. Now we have to juggle all the spiritual, even, spiritual demands and commitments. One example would be successful people who want to be successful don't negotiate the price of success. They don't negotiate. People who actually get to Olympics at high levels, or they become high up in the Navy SEALs or military, or those who, Tesla, Elon Musk, or Robert Kiyosaki in the finance world. These persons were successful because they never negotiated the price. They took the value of commitment with no back door, relentless. Of course, it's for a material goal. But how many of us in Bhakti promised to chant our rounds and to read, and we're not doing it? We've negotiated the price of success. And that may not be totally to do with sincerity, but it's actually to do that you actually have the wrong mindset. Why? Because in this world, people become employees. People are just taught to do the minimum, just to show up, to be comfortable, to play it safe, to never step out, do something different. That's a whole mindset and conditioning that we've had. So we come to Bhakti, we have that exciting few years, we get initiated, and then we negotiate the price of success. Why? Because the stinking thinking, the average thinking and conditioning that society gives us, maybe that starts to kick in. It's like, but I got initiated. That was then. Things are different now. We lose touch with what our why is. What is our outcome focus? That's the type of thinking. People who are successful are outcome focused, but most of us grew up being what? Process focused. What does that mean? That means what do I do next? Oh, I go to school. What do I do now? I suppose I go to uni. What do I do now? Now, we're not interested in creating and developing an outcome that we deeply believe in. We're just being processed through life. And I think, a lot of devotees end up thinking, well, I'm practicing. What's next? Maybe it's initiation. Maybe it's this. But that's the wrong thinking. That is not the thinking of success. We want to become outcome focused. So this is just an example. You won't know, or you won't see this conditioning deeply. That's at probably one of the roots, or one of the main reasons devotees remain stuck or not chanting their rounds, following their principles, watching movies, breaking regulated principles, justifying it. Behind that is a type of thinking and justification. Yes, this kind of modal. And you have to address that stinking thinking. And all those problems can be solved if first you change the thinking and you develop the competency to create habits and behaviors that will counteract and rise and help the devotee rise out of that lower thinking. And it can be done by anyone. Anyone, if they choose, can change. If you can change the way you think, you can change the way you live. So a lot of devotees are trying to solve the problem by trying to do things differently. They're trying courses, they're trying japa retreats, they're doing all these things to try to get their habits better. But then many will just slowly default back because they haven't addressed the mindset. And, which I don't go into too much today, is accountability. You need to have a program of checking in, monitoring, like intentional growth. So I'll give you an example. Oh, Prabhu, I want to read the whole of Srimad Bhagavatam this year. Cool. And you set that goal, and then you just set out trying to read that, and you think, but then eventually you fall short because you didn't really have a plan and an accountable plan of how much do I need to read this week to stay on track? Did you set the goal, make the plan, break it down to what you need to do on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, and then you forget the goal, and then you execute that plan, and you forget the goal. You just have to know, I need to do this number of pages per day to finish Bhagavatam in a year. You got to know how to be specific. You got to know how to know the goal, forget the goal, make the plan, execute the plan. So that's something we do in Thriving Bhakti. With everything we do, we set the goal, we make a plan, we forget the goal, and then we have an accountability, and we just say this week, and we're ticking it off. We've got a way of saying, yes, I've done my 6 pages. All I have to do is keep doing those 6 pages. I don't have to worry about the goal. I know it will happen because I understand success. I understand I need accountability. And I also understand the mindset. So today, emphasizing the importance of devotees who are struggling, devotees who are not where they want to be. They're not, they've negotiated the price of success. They've justified to themselves negatively or justified in some way why they can't be a thriving sadhaka that they know they can be. They remain the overwhelmed and struggling bhakta, and they feel that's the norm. So if you can address that thinking and you can get them to change, great. That's the thing about the Thriving Back program is it does that in 90 days. Not fully, but within 90 days, that shift in thinking and the achievement of certain levels of results produces that momentum that allows devotees like the wheel spinning. It just spinning in the mud. But if you can just jar something under the tire, it gets some grip and it starts to move, and there's hope, and the car starts to lift itself out. And that's the purpose of the program that I run. And that's the purpose of these videos and the podcasts, is to try to see the mindset and the thinking and the skill sets that are here, that if you just take away, just read them and apply them, you will definitely get results. Because this doesn't just work spiritually, it works with anything that you do. Anyone who has a high level of success understands these three ingredients: mindset, goal setting, accountability. If you have one of them missing, you're going to have some problems. It's going to be pretty hard. Yeah, you've got to have all three together. So, just keep learning, like, subscribe, plug in, share any results that you're getting. And if you have any questions, please post below and I'll get back to you. I have Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify, and you can contact me in that way or online on Facebook. So please like and subscribe if you're watching this. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next episode. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.